Out here this evening, first order of business, just like all school board meetings, is the Pledge of Allegiance. It'll be led tonight by Mr. Terry Hodge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hodge. Our agenda tonight is one thing. This is our first of 4 interviews with candidates that the Tennessee School Board Association has recommended that we consider for Director of Schools. And our first candidate here tonight is Mr. Bill Spurlock, and I want to welcome you, Mr. Spurlock, and I appreciate you coming, I appreciate you applying. The interview process is a simple one. I understand all candidates, probably yesterday, I guess, got a copy of the questions.
That's correct.
I would, there are 14 of them, and questions. There could be a follow-up or 2 somewhere along the line. Don't know way to know. The time frame is, frankly, it's whatever it takes. And I don't know anything else to say. We will start, and I didn't select this, but we have an order that we will go in, and obviously there's some things that we are looking for from you and in your answers, and perhaps you may have some questions for us too. We don't know. But at any rate, the first 2 questions will be asked by board member and former chairman Wayne Blair. Mr. Blair, it's your time, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Spurlock. First question, and I'm pleased to be first. So, how does your philosophy of education align with our district?
Mr. Blair, the mission statement of Rutherford County Schools states the following: to empower today's students to grasp tomorrow's opportunities. As I look at this, it reminds me of my history in Rutherford County Schools. We moved here from Metro Nashville in 1970. I attended John Coleman Elementary School, to Thurman Francis Junior High School, and I graduated at Smyrna High School in 1978. You know, along the way, I had teachers that had a great influence on me. They encouraged me to go to college. They provided me an avenue to go to college, and they supported me in all my endeavors. My philosophy is that every child, no matter what race, ethnicity, color, anything of that nature, can learn and can be successful. We should have high expectations for every one of our students. However, we have to be realistic and understand that expectation for me and an expectation for someone else may be different. But we have to hold them to rigorous curriculum, high expectations, but at the same time providing support. That's a key component, that support. You know, during my time in Rutherford County Schools, I saw many different things. You know, the Rutherford County Schools that I graduated from in '78 is quite different than it is today. We're more diverse. In fact, is my understanding, we got over 100 languages that are spoken in our schools. These young people have the ability to learn. We have to provide them the resources that's necessary for them to be successful. You know, I kind of use the illustration in terms of our students, like a baseball diamond. You know, you have 3 bases and then you go home. Some of our students will come to us already on first base. Some of our students will come to us not even in the stadium. It is up to us to provide the support that they can make that progress along the way. You know, teachers make a huge impact on our students. We have a great, in my 29 years in Rutherford County Schools, I've always complimented on the amount of effective teachers that we have in our system. I think it's a testimony of why we have the kind of growth we have. Our schools are setting the standard for others to follow.
Thank you. My second question, what do you consider to be the major strengths that you would bring to this position?
You know, one of the things that I believe is my strength is effective communication. You know, I think about Stephen Covey's 5th habit of the 7 habits of effective people. First, seek to understand, then be understood. You know, when I took the job at Oakland High School and along the way, I always wanted to listen to what people had to say about a particular issue or a particular instructional strategy or whatever it may be. First, listen to understand, and then to be understood. You know, when I got the job at Oakland in 2008, our school was a focus school. We had some issues. I recall when Mr. Gill came in, he had Mr. Odom go over all the data that we had. We had been failure to make our graduation rate several years in a row. Also, our academic data, both achievement and value added, was at risk. Now, it would be very easy for me to come in there and to try to point out problems. However, that's not how you get a buy-in. So what I did is listen to our faculty. Where do we want to go? Obviously, we want to get off this focus list. How are we going to get there? So through that communication, that effective communication, we were able to collaborate and develop a vision of where we wanted to go. Now, we had just started our IB program there. That was part of the component. That was one part of the component to address all learners. Now, what we did is we sat down and how can we increase this program? How can we provide this program so that we can get students that want to be part of something like this? Well, we got permission to offer the program to other parts of the county. And during that opportunity, we got to go out to other schools. I personally attended many schools, McFadden, Thurman Francis, a variety of different middle schools around our county, and presented the parents and presented with the young people that were there and the educators of what our process would be in order to bring them into the IB program. Also, during that time, we looked at our instructional strategies. What is it we're doing or what are we not doing to get our desired results? We use TVOS data. We use achievement data where we determine the standard of analysis of particular tests and where we were falling short. Through that process, we developed a plan of how we would improve best practices, how we would track our students in terms of common formative assessments, how we would take the data that we would receive and create interventions to help our students during what we call Patriot Activity Time. Through that process, we were able to achieve, and I say we because it was a we effort, it required every one of us working together. Not only during that time were we able to end up in 2 out of the last 5 years we've been a reward school in the area of growth. That speaks volumes of the teachers that, in fact, the teachers and the staff that are at Oakland High School. This vision of how do we pursue improvement came to fruition. We're seeing it. But we don't stop there. We didn't stop there and we won't stop there. Our vision is to provide greater opportunities for every one of our students and from every end to the spectrum. That's how we have improved in terms of offering some of our courses that will meet their needs and also offering some career and technical educational courses that is going to provide benefits to them in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock.
Mr. Young?
Mr. Spurlock, as a director of Rutherford County Schools, how would you deal with the amount of growth and the shortfall of quality teachers filling open positions? Examples being ELs, math, science, special education.
Well, I will say this, 17 years from 2000 to 2001 up until today, We have added almost a little over 19 million students. That's unreal. It does speak volumes of where we are as a system, that people want to relocate to our area. The reputation of our schools that were, I can go back to Mr. Watson when we had our first elected official. Under his direction, we implemented technology into the classroom. Through Mr. Gill's tenure, we did incredible things. And then under Mr. Odom's tenure, it's continued on. And our people that are moving here wanting to be part of an effective system. And I accredit the board. I have seen a paradigm shift of the board. You know, the board has worked consistently to provide the needs of our schools, at the same time maintaining a very workable relationship for our funding body. And it goes back to all of us working together. So to sum up this retention, now one of the things we have to look at here is we have to anticipate growth. It's kind of difficult at times, and we know that the pool for teachers is shrinking. Our teachers that are in our system are inundated with a responsibility every day, and they accept that. Now, as leaders, we've got to make sure that we're recognizing them. We got to be making sure that we're making them feel that they're important, and I will say this board here has done that. You've made sure you address the salary. You've made sure you address the incentives, signing bonuses, and things of that nature for those that are coming into our system. But what we have to do now is we have to take this one step further. One of the issues that we're finding in teacher ed programs is not as many students are going into teacher ed. I know in our HR department, we have sought and we seeked out relationships and partnerships for various universities and determine how many are coming out, what area are they coming out in, so that we can get them first. Now, last year, as I understand it, we, of the number of teachers that we non-renewed in our system, almost 85% of them were rehired. Now, we've got to develop a growth. We've got to grow our teachers. We've got to take someone who may be borderline effective and provide them with the tools that is necessary to improve. Now, I will say this, the administrative staffs throughout our county, the principals, the assistant principals, they are doing a great job, and they are doing all that they can. You know, several years ago in a principals meeting, I brought up the suggestion of including instructional coaches in the high schools. At that time, we'd had some in the elementary and the middle, but we didn't have any in the high schools. We had this happen this year. It's making an effect, but it's going to take time. We need the personnel on the front lines. You know, these teachers go to work each day, working with our students, and sometimes it's a challenge for them. They need help. So my thing is, we get that marginal teacher who may be new to the profession, and we provide more training with an on-site instructional coach. Now, we have some already, and we're bringing some in, but I'll be honest with you, I think we need one, since ELA, English, and math are so important as we look at our data. We need an additional one. Now, this would obviously would take a commitment on the part of the Board of Education and through what you can do. But what we've done is over the years we've taken the role of the principal and the assistant principal, who normally was a manager, and we required them to be an instructional leader. Now, along the way, we forgot that when they became the lead instructional leader, they didn't leave their managerial duties at the door. So it's stretching them thin, is what I'm saying. And in order for us to maintain that, we have to get more personnel in our schools to train those teachers. Next thing is, we've had about 20% of our new hires last year that were job embedded. That means that they did not have the pedagogy. They had the content knowledge. They had, areas of expertise, if you will, in terms of whether it was math, science, social studies, or whatever, but they did not have the pedagogy. Now, when we do a job-embedded licensure, that means they have to go back and get additional coursework on the master's level, approximately 6 hours. I don't have to tell you guys what, some of you that have had children go through school lately, I don't have to tell you how expensive that can be. That is on them. That is on those teachers. And keep in mind, what they're getting is just learning how to teach, not content knowledge. Now, we have made some strides in occupational license where we use in our career and technical education. We do have a grant that's coming aboard where we can actually certify our teachers. So if I have a teacher that wants to come in and teach in one of my career and technical education classes that has experience in that field over 5 years or more, I can bring him on board now and we can do the training of how to teach with that grant. Now, we have not even reached that point with our core classes. The academia, it would be very challenging, but I think it's something we need to look at. Who better to train teachers how to teach than those that are actually on the front lines and are being effective? Would you want them to train your teachers how to teach, or would you want a professor who may or may not have been in the classroom in the last 20 years?
Thank you, Mr. Spurlock. What areas would you focus on to take Rutherford County Schools to the next level, and how would you improve these areas?
I think if you look at our report card, I think it goes without saying we have improved, but we still have ways to go in terms of achievement and value added in both English and math, and that is for across the board. For us to maintain and increase, we've got to make sure every one of our students, whether they're taking on the grade level or a course in high school that's sequenced to another course, we got to make sure each one is on grade level when they go to that next course, or we go into the remediation part of it. So that's one of the things. We also have to increase, we have an accountability piece now called College and Career Ready. Now, the college ready is you're held accountable by the percentage of students that score a 21 or higher on the ACT. Now, I'll take that part first. How do we raise the ACT? Well, one of the things I will tell you right now, the ACT, and I think Mr. Odom has done a very good job of articulating this, the ACT does not just start at the 9th grade. It starts in middle school. Some of the skills that are assessed on the ACT are taught, most of them are taught by the end of the 8th grade, some in the middle of the 7th grade. Now, they go a little bit deeper, but they're taught. So we have to somehow work with our middle schools, and they do a fantastic job, and keep in mind they have a lot of accountability on them also. But we have to somehow embed this skill set within ACT, within the curriculum in which they have. And I think we've made strides there. So we want to raise that ACT score, and I think we have this year. And I think sometimes just the culture that exists within the school. We make a big deal of it. Every school in Rutherford County makes a big deal about ACT skills in order to go to college, in order to get that Hope Scholarship and things of that nature. But, one of the things, we have a flip side of that. Not everyone is going to go to a four-year university. So we have to make sure that our students are career ready. And they may go to a post-secondary institution, but we got to make sure they're career ready. Now, one of the things that we've done, and I think we've done a great job, but we're on the cusp of doing better things, is creating more early post-secondary opportunities. Now, those things would be in AP classes, IB, dual enrollment, dual credit, CLEP, Those kind of things right there would, and the last component of that would be industry certification. You know, in our programs of studies that we have in Rutherford County, currently we do not have enough areas where there is a certification at the end completion of the course. Now, yesterday I think the state released 20 more certifications that brought it up to 30 out of the 46 programs of study through the state of Tennessee. Now, I haven't had a chance to really dive into that and do a deep dive, but that sounds encouraging. But we've got to continue to do that. You know, one of the things that I hear a lot of times from our state officials is we have to be college and career ready, and I believe they sometimes forget what career ready looks like. There's where our local industry, there's where our Chamber of Commerce has come in and helped us tremendously.
Mr. Hodge?
Good evening, Mr. Spurlock. First question I have is our funding for our school board budget comes from the county commission. How would you go about getting support from the commission to fund not only our budget but also our building program?
First of all, I appreciate having the opportunities to attend some of the health ed meetings, and I've been in the audience, and, you know, in the full commission and things of that nature. One of the things that I would do as your director of school, and I think it's been done very effectively throughout our history of directors of schools, is developing individual relationships with our funding committee. You know, we have to meet them so that they can know who we are, what our purpose is all about, you know, and in providing them with our vision of where we want our schools to go. You know, we serve the same entity. They serve, you know, they have the same people that elect them also are the ones who send, some of them are that sends their children or their grandchildren to our schools. So we have to develop this relationship, and we've done a great job. And we've got to show them where, you know, one of the most powerful statements that I've seen here recently was in the fall when Mr. Odom showed the report card. He took our per pupil expenditure, he compared it to the state, and it came out over $1,300 less than the state average. And then he says, you take that $1,300, you multiply it by our enrollment, we're saving you $58 million, almost $59 million. So the Board of Education, since I have kept up, has never brought a frivolous budget to the commission. They've brought things that we need, things that are necessary to carry out our duties as educators. And we've got to be as passionate about that as we are when we're discussing that, as we are when the teacher's in the classroom providing the learning that's taking place. So with that said, we also need to get them in our schools. You know, a lot of times we bring them in our schools when there's a problem, when we need to build something, or we need to add on something, or we need to create something. We need to get them in our schools all the time when great things are going on. They need to see what this money is doing to the lives of our children. And we have done that. But I think we empower our principals to invite them in. A lot of times, you know, the principal thinks about it, and then he may or may not. But I think we need to make sure that that is a role that we can do locally with our principals and our administrative staffs and faculty. They need to see these things.
Thank you. Next question. How have you been successful in getting strong parental and community support for a school, program, or district? Tell us about one such success.
If I could be so kind to tell you about one and tell you about a big picture. You know, one of the things that we did when I came to Oakland High School, and you know, we were wanting to get engagement, so we created what's called a school and community council, and we met quarterly. Now, what we did is we did a lot of listening. we listened. We showed everything. We showed them data of achievement. We showed them data of growth. We showed them data of discipline. Everything. We were very transparent, and we listened. How can you help us? What can we do to get you engaged? And it wasn't just parents. We also had business leaders there. And through that dialogue, we created many things that were beneficial. And as they come back and we would present again, we would emphasize on the improvement from previously. So that's one way. Now, another way that we have got involvement of the community is through business partnerships. You know, in 2012, I received a phone call from an industry leader requesting my presence at a Murfreesboro manufacturing meeting. And I wasn't going to go until I heard the following. The executive director of charter schools will be there. Automatically, I was very interested. So I got permission to go. Through that meeting, I sat through the meeting. We heard from industry how it was difficult to hire skilled laborers, skilled workers, that they had to go outside to find them. And through this process of going to many meetings, we got an idea of creating a highly skilled program in career and technical education at Oakland High School. Now, from there, we were invited to a meeting with our state legislatures. I attended. I was there, me and several others attended. Then they came up with the idea, what are the obstacles that are preventing us to produce some of these programs in high school? Well, the next step was go sit down and talk to the Governor Haslam. So, in January of 2013, I find myself along with two state representatives, a senator and a leader from Nissan, sitting down in Governor Haslam's conference room. Now, my part of it was identifying the problem we had as far as occupational licensure. At that time, it required more than 6 hours. And that's what my part of it was. As Mr. Haslam, as Governor Haslam asked me, I gave him my opinion. I gave him my thoughts on that process. From there, it wasn't but a couple of months later that was reduced. The amount of hours, classes necessary to get certified occupation was reduced. Right? Through that process, we end up creating the mechatronics program. Through networking with business leaders, you know, one of the things that I always told the business leaders after I would listen and they would ask me, and I always tell them, you can get the ear of the governor or the ear of the legislatures more so than an educator can. And that you know, that rung real well with them. And that's how we ended up with this, what we have. You know, I've met with various people from state government. I've attended a meeting with the Commissioner of Workforce and Development, Byrne Phillips. You know, through that process, there was some discussion taking place. We improved what we were doing, and through it all, it was a valuable experience of how to network with entities that exist outside of the schools.
Estes?
All right, Mr. Spurlock, in what ways do you think career technical education supports ESSA standards in the core subjects?
You know, one of the things with the revamp of the standards is the reduction of the length of the standard and the depth of the standard. You know, there's an old saying, an old Chinese proverb that goes, tell me and I'll forget. Show me, and I might remember. But if you engage me, I will take that learning and I will put it to use. That's how I equate career and technical education. You know, we can take those standards, those skills that are taught in our math and our English, science, and put them to good use in career and technical education. It's taking an abstract and making it applicable to everyday life. Now, we do, as educators, we do have word problems. We work those out, and we do projects. But what is more powerful than finding the slope when you're, determining the pitch of a roof? Those skills there make it concrete. Career and technical education, we know, has been a very vital tool for not only Rutherford County schools, but also for schools throughout the state of Tennessee and the nation. You know, it's shown that graduation rates for career and technical education students are higher. You know, they are recognized more, and I will tell you something else that probably you may or may not know. There's this thing called soft skills, teamwork, you know, working together, creativity. Those kind of skills that we do not necessarily teach in a regular core class or academic class, if you will. It's valuable. It's a tool that's invaluable, you know, to take those things. Many times when we've had this in the past, we probably need to do more of it. We do cross-curricular things with. We've done it at Oakland with our biology and our agriculture. We've done that. We've done those things with that. We've done things with our math and our construction corps. You know, and in our mechatronics program, which is so unique, our instructor actually teaches calculus he's actually dual enrolls calculus to his mechatronic kids, where they can take that theorem and put it to practical application, easy for me to say, practical application to gear ratio. You know, those are the kind of things that you can't get. That's very special, and we're very proud of our career and technical education courses, teachers.
Mr. Estes, may I follow up? Are there other areas in the school where you find this same type of application of the core curriculum standards in other areas outside of CTE?
Not as much. If we do, it's a concerted area. It's not built into the curriculum, if you will. It may be something, for example, with a physics class or something of that nature would create a boat out of a cardboard or something of that nature to determine the density and the buoyancy of something, and things of that nature, but not to every day. Project-based things, yes, but not every day.
Okay. Tell us 3 curricular or instructional improvements that occurred as a result of your leadership, and what evidence do you have that they were improvements?
Well, you know, once again, and this is not with false humility, I don't know if it was mine only, but a collective effort from every one of us within the school. Cooperative learning, we've been doing this for a long time. It's a quasi-heterogeneous grouping in which we put groups of students together, varying levels of ability, and during that time, we let them take a lesson, something that they manipulate, and end up creating the answer to the problem. Now, what it does, it teaches team skills, you know, working together. It teaches some interpersonal skills. It teaches roles that you play. It teaches accountability. And at the same time, you will have sometimes within that group, you will have the learner articulating to his group member, teaching this, which in turn not only reinforces learning for the teacher in the group, but also the students that are in part of the group. You know, how have we seen this work? Well, we see it in some of our common formative assessments, the results from our testing. More success on those. Another one of our things that we did, and we did this primarily in our ELA class, is called layered curriculum. Now, layered curriculum is more of a homogeneous grouping, and it's based on this principle. We put them in groups. The first group is a level C. That's the foundational skills that the students will need to build upon in order to master the content of the subject. And then level B is where they take those foundational skills and they apply it to a concept. And then when they get to level C, that's when the depth of knowledge comes in. That's when they're manipulating it, they're creating, they're forming hypotheses, they're doing that higher depth of knowledge. Yet every student will get to that level, but at different times. I go back to my illustration of the baseball diamond. Someone starts on first base, some don't. Ultimately, we want every one of them to cross home plate. The third one we do, flip the classroom. We primarily do this with some of our advanced honors. We can do it with any class, but we do it with some IB. Flip the classroom is where you normally, the lecture, the investigation, those type of things occur outside of school. Sometimes it's online. It may be a podcast. It may be a program that we have contracted out with. And they investigate this and bring it into the classrooms so that when they enter the classroom, that time is not wasted on that. It's wasted on digging deeper into whatever they're working with. And how do we know this is working? Because of some of the scores that we've seen improved, whether it's internal scores or something on state testing. We know it's improving. We know it's effective.
Thank you.
Holliday?
Mr. Spurlock, cite an instance in a current or former position that demonstrates your ability to work effectively with a diverse group.
You know, I thought about that. One of the things, I work with a diverse group every day. Our school is about as diverse as far as high schools are concerned in Rutherford County. We're about 56% Caucasian, about 26% African American, about 13% Hispanic, about 8% Asian, and then 2% other. We're about 13% SPED population. We're about 43% free and reduced lunch. Each one of those kids that walk through our door, one of the things I always say to our parents on freshman orientation is we bring them in. When your child is with us all 4 years, we can guarantee to you that when they leave us, they will be better prepared than when they came. We make that guarantee. Now, our guarantee is not just what we're going to do, but it's what you are going to do as a parent. What we and you can do together by collaborating. And then I thought about, and going back to other things that we've done, a diverse group. I would consider a diverse group educators, business leaders, things of that nature. We work with our business leaders. We work to help them, and in turn, they help us. We have developed internships through our mechatronics program. We've apprenticeships for our program, and we continue to seek that. And we work very closely with our Chamber of Commerce. It's very important. They play a vital role. I have been able to be exposed to many different things through the Chamber of Commerce. I had the opportunity last year through the State Department of Education, along with the Chamber of Commerce, to go down to Georgia, where a factory named Southwire was actually run by students. And one of the things there is that Georgia had done that they're a little more ahead of us is one of the big hang-ups with industry now is workman's comp, underage students with workman's comp. What the governor of Georgia did was he he worked with industry to waive some of the costs involved. Now our chamber is getting to do a better job with working with industry so that they will allow our 17-year-olds and things like with opportunities that may exist.
Discuss your level of expertise in elementary curriculum and instruction and describe where you gained the expertise, and do the same for secondary.
I think expertise means an expert. I think that means it. I'm going to be honest with you. I would never consider myself an expert at anything. My wife might differ with me, but I would never consider that. But I will tell you I have a knowledge base of that. First of all, we all know that in elementary, the old saying is kids learn to read until they hit the third grade, and then they read to learn. All right. Now, in elementary education, it's basically what they have, and I've had the opportunity to talk to some very effective elementary principals throughout my career here in Rutherford County, and I also had some children that go through elementary school. I'm sure some of you have too. I've had 2 children go to elementary, middle, and high school in Rutherford County, so I got a little bit of experience that way too, even not only working there. But one of the things that they basically have your core math, English, science, and social studies. Okay, that's their core classes. Then they have 2 exploratory periods. Now, some of them with the exploratory period, they will do, all of them will do a PE and a fine art. All right, they're exploratory. The second exploratory will differ from school to school, whatever the need is. It may be an RTI, which mainly it will be an RTI. Some might have RTI. Some may have a program where they work on like SHMOOP or something of that nature, or they may have something where they do exploratory in careers, or they may do like some of ours do in middle school with STEM and things of that nature. You know, and as I've talked to our educators and talked to some of our administrators in elementary school, their curriculum in which they use, you know, that's the key of everything. You know, we've created tests sometimes in the middle of a text adoption year, and the curriculum is not aligned with the text. We're very fortunate we're getting there now, and I will applaud all these educators that have had to, the last several years before text adoption, had to go out and extract material from out on the web or from various things of that nature prior to, because when you change an assessment in the middle of in what our text adoption, we may not have something that we anchor to get the curriculum from. So our educators had to do it. Right now, I think they like this iReady in math. I know in elementary they like that test, the math text. Now, I think secondary was another area. Obviously, I've had more experience in secondary. I have taught middle school, by the way. I was a special education teacher in the state of Georgia, and I actually taught, y'all love this, I taught severely emotionally disturbed and behavior disorders. And it was a learning experience, you know, and I also taught remedial math in science. So I've got a good insight on, you know, skill development as far as students are concerned and things of that nature over the years. But in secondary ed, it's a huge moving parts. You know, we obviously have to have 23 credits to graduate, and we've got to have 4 in English. We have to have 4 in math, 3 in social studies. We have to have 2 years of a foreign language in the same foreign language. We have to have a year and a half of PE and wellness. We have to have a half credit of personal finance, you know, and then we have to have 3 credits in a focus area. You know, it's a huge part, and I will tip my hat to our guidance counselors and our lead teachers in making sure that our kids are appropriately placed. You know, that was one of the things that's very important. For us to reach our goals, we have to make sure that our students are appropriately placed from one level to the next, so that we're stretching their education. We're exposing them. We're moving them off their comfort zone. The only way we're going to reach what we seek to get is to make sure that they're being challenged. And we use data to do so. We use all kinds of data. We use, we use obviously state data, we use testing data, but we also use teacher input. I think that's very important. I think that's very important. So that's, like I said, I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I'm pretty knowledgeable about what's going on.
Ms. Moore?
Thank you. Mr. Spurlock, tell us about the most important decision that you've made recently and explain how you involve the people that would be affected by the decision.
Wow. I thought about that one, and I'm going to have to be very honest. Applying for the director of schools of Rutherford County. It doesn't just involve me. Now, I'm a man of faith, and the will is not my will, but his will. But it also involves my family. I have a son, a stepson, and a daughter that both work in this system. What they do on their own merit. And I'm proud of each one of them. They saw me as an educator. I never pushed my children to do what I did. Not that I had a problem with it, but I wanted them to make the decision on their own. Because I'm a firm believer that teaching is a calling. I can go back in my days and remember some of the most effective teachers, but I don't remember what they taught. I just remembered how they made me feel. And I wanted my children to do the same thing. So I had to do a lot of praying on it, the sense of this is what I need to do. And then I had to go to the next boss, my wife, and make sure that she understood what this would entail, and my family, because it just doesn't affect me. I'm a big boy. I can do things, but I think of my family, and that's very important to me.
Thank you. Okay, next, tell us about any recent action on your part that you believe would illustrate your ability to be a champion for your schools.
I thought about that too. I had an opportunity this year to do two things. The first one was to host what was referred to. We thought we get numerous out-of-state visitors who want to come to and see our career and technical education program. So we get this information that Commissioner McQueen was going to come with a group of people to see our program. Well, this program is called, let me see if I can get this correctly, Chiefs of Change. So I researched Chief of Change, and they're strong proponents of school choice. But when your boss tells you you'll host them, you host them. So during the conversations, we took them around, which included our former Commissioner of Education, Kevin Huffman. I made specifically the statement that I prefaced everything I said, but I want to let you know that I believe in public education. Not only do I believe in it, but I believe that public education does it the right way. And then the second opportunity occurred on November the 21st, on a Tuesday afternoon, late in the day, with a phone call. I pick up the phone call, and it's a person from Secretary DeVos's office. And he proceeds to tell me that Secretary DeVos would be in the area in the coming weeks, and she had spoken to Senator Lamar Alexander and heard of great things that were occurring at Oakland High School in terms of our career and technical education courses, and she wanted to visit. And he said, would this be okay? Well, I will have to say my first thing was yes, and I didn't get permission, so I had to ask for forgiveness, but I said yes. And he seemed shocked. He said, are you sure? I said, absolutely. One of the things I'd read, and I've read a lot of different things on Secretary DeVos, but one of the things that resonated with me when I read that she said that not every person has to go to a four-year university in order to be successful. That struck a chord with me. And I understood that there's a lot of rhetoric that goes back and forth about school choice and everything, but you know what? I told Mr. Odom this. I said, sometimes if you want to be heard, you have to quit screaming. So I invited her there. She came in, was very cordial. We went around. She was very engaging. She talked to our kids. Our kids were phenomenal. She left and she told us, she said, you know, y'all have something good going here. So then she proceeds the next day to go down to somewhere in Nashville where the president was there. And although he didn't mention it by name, he did make reference to some great programs that are occurring in our schools. That may not change her opinion on public education, but it served two purposes. It showed that we do have places where we do the right thing, and that public education can serve the best interests of our students. So that's why I chose that. And in a follow-up around Christmas time, I get a written note from Secretary DeVos directly to me, telling me how pleased she was. You know, that speaks volumes. That speaks volumes not just for Oakland High School. That speaks volumes for our schools in Rutherford County.
Thank you.
Mr. Spurlock, how would you utilize the expertise of your staff to create an atmosphere of the schools, in the schools that will lead to educational excellence?
You know, one of the things, and I've said this numerous times, I'll continue to say it, we have great leaders in our system. That doesn't mean that there's going to be, you know, that they don't have problems. And I've been there, done that. One of the things as a leader, if chosen as the director of schools of Rutherford County, I will never, ever tell my administrators, identify a problem without coming up with a solution. It's important. You know, if I tossed out, you have to make sure your kids take more rigorous courses. That's not a solution. That's an idea. You know, I'm a pragmatic type of person. I want to look at what gets results. I want to take in consideration all kinds of data. And I don't want to take 1 year data. I would prefer to take a longitudinal data over several years to see what works. You know, and work effectively with that leadership team and that faculty to determine what are the next steps in their pursuit of improvement. You know, I would listen. I would provide support. That's very important. And I think we've had that, and I think we could continue that.
Mr. Spurlock, how can you help us increase public involvement and support for our schools?
You know, it seems like, and some of my colleagues could tell you different, it seems like we get a lot of parent support in elementary, a little less support in middle, and almost non-existent in high school. I think we can do a better job there with our parents. As far as the community is concerned, we've got to be, you know, one of the things that I would do as director of schools is I would have cluster meetings. I would go out to a cluster, whether it be in the northern ends, you know, wherever, and meet with the community. Meet with community leaders. You know, within that audience may be commissioners. You know, within that audience may be state representatives. And what I would do is I would listen, and I'd also champion the things that we are doing well. You know, it's very important that as we go through the process of seeking to improve, that we involve everyone. We got to make sure that every one of our constituents are being heard, whether it's our parents, whether it's our business leaders, whether whomever it may be. And this would be my desire, is to do things like this.
You've been keeping track, Mr. Spurlock. That's 14 questions.
All right. I didn't keep track, but if you say so, I'll believe you.
Obviously, we want to thank you again for being with us tonight. If you'll just hold it right there for just a second before we adjourn. I want to remind the audience, and in case the audience is wondering, we do have 3 more candidates. The next one will be Dr. Ash from Central Magnet School. He'll be with us on the 14th of March at 6 o'clock. And the other 2 interviews will be the 19th of March and the 21st of March. And the questions will be exactly the same except for the one follow-up. Obviously, we can't predict a follow-up. Other than that, I think we're in good shape. I appreciate you being here tonight. Appreciate the audience very much. And I think we can adjourn.